Queen is dead. Long live the King. We have one beautiful lady less, fewer, with us tonight in this country, and we are here to celebrate the life of this dearly loved woman who has touched the lives of everyone currently living, I believe, and many more. With me tonight, I'll welcome Birdie. Hello, Birdie.
Good evening, Poe. It's nice to be here, but it's a shame about the circumstance, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm. And cows. We have a colonialist with us.
Hey, I was born into this. I didn't choose it, but hello, everyone. It's nice to be here.
Okay. Thank you all for turning up. I had to prepare this show on a bit of a short time constraint. Other things in the news, which we won't be covering tonight, are the Peppa Pig, the cartoon, now has a same-sex couple as the parents of a little polar bear. So there's lesbian polar bears now in Peppa Pig. And of course, we have our first female prime minister appointed this week, Liz Truss, the lesser of the Liz's to be in the news this week. But those stories won't be covered. The main story, the main draw of tonight's stream is, of course, Queen Elizabeth II has died at the age of 96 after 70 years on the throne, and an amazing life she had. I went out in the village earlier today, and the bells were tolling just constantly all day. It's unlike anything that's really happened. It's sort of the crazy inverse of the Jubilee, which we celebrated only a few months ago. Now we have the similar sort of sentiment, similar scale and presence of this event, and yet it's in reverse. It's a polar opposite in a way. I think there's been a lot of mourning today. There's been a lot of sadness, grief. There's been somber memories shared, sort of a lot of love. But I'd like to celebrate her as a person, not just her title, but the person who she was and what she meant to the people in her life and to us who got to experience her. A lot of people have commented on how much of a constant presence she's been to our lives. There are very few people alive today who can remember a time before she was on the throne. She became the queen at age 25 when her father died, and she's been just consistently doing her duty to the office. It seems like she's completely committed her life, given up everything of herself to the British people, in my opinion. And I know that other people feel the same way from what they've said in their speeches. We've heard many notable figures giving their 2 cents, to give their tributes to Elizabeth, to the Queen. And that's something that's come up a lot. So I've got some images here. I hope I can find the right one to start with. Is that going to work? No, we're still looking at the other one. Drat. All right, we're starting in the middle. All right. Now, maybe I can just, I'll zip through. Isn't this fun?
Zoom through them.
Yeah, we're going back in time. Here we go. This is what I wanted to start with. I started the stream a bit prematurely before I got the right image on the screen, but this is a beautiful image of the Queen in profile, as we're used to seeing her on all of our stamps and our coins. But that's the constant presence of her face is really the least of it, in the way I see it. The fact that we're constantly looking at her face in profile is the very least of what she means to this country, to this empire. Any my guests, please do speak up as it occurs to you. I'm just going to flip through these while we're
I think first and foremost, as you say, Poe, she definitely had a presence in our lives. As a lot of people have said, we might not have known her personally, but we all felt like we did. I think it is important to remember that she was also a family woman. She was a mother, she was a grandmother, she was a great grandmother. And I put a message on my Facebook page actually earlier today, reminding people that even if they, didn't like the Queen or for whatever reason, it's still important to be respectful, as it is still somebody that someone has lost, whether that's the nation or indeed just her family. So it is definitely important to remember that.
Absolutely. And I was going to say that the Queen is, in more ways than just mentally, very physically involved in our lives. I mean, when I was spending time in the UK, the Queen's name is inscribed on so many buildings, so many of the products and stores that they use in the palaces. And her presence was probably the most obvious display of traditional imperial hierarchy and what people thought of when they thought of European culture. Um, and her as a symbol, whether you like her as a person or not, that can be put aside for now. She was most definitely a paradigm of traditional government that was formed under the natural order. That was the way that Britain was for centuries, and that it will hopefully continue to be with the crowning of her son.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think as a symbol, it seems like she understood that she was living as a, a physical embodiment of Britishness, British values, femininity, basically something like a living archetype. The way that very few people on Earth really live, just really, like I say, dedicating everything that she was to being this. I don't want to say perfect, but there's a certain she's being a certain way, or maybe we just think that queens are like that because we've had this one queen for our entire lives, and she so much embodies a lot of positivity, the positive aspects of the country and our culture that it's inextricably linked to our idea of queenliness now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I do agree with you there, Poe. But I'd like to add that yes, although she has been our only, well, for ourselves, certainly our only monarch. I was speaking to Alex about this earlier, and there are a lot of comments and speculations that we won't go into on the stream about our current king. But I would like to remind everyone that our monarchs previously, throughout history, have never been saints. They've always done something to go slightly off the rails, and our dear Queen didn't. That we're aware of, should I say? But she was certainly a role model that everyone looked up to. She was, as you say, wouldn't want to say perfect queen, but she was certainly a very, very good one, in Britain's standards, shall we say.
The reason I shy away from the word perfect is that it sounds, to me, the word perfect symbolizes a kind of sterility, or
Yeah.
like she's not even real. She's so perfect, but
Yeah.
she was, there was a kind of childish innocence to her as well. Though the way she would smirk and giggle, or she had a personality is the thing. It's not that it was a blemish on her, but that to me perfection does sound a bit too cold to describe the very like warm human person that she was.
It's very important as well that the public acknowledge that she was a person. She had a private life. No family is immune to issues, and when the sort of rift that was forming in recent years and in past conflicts with whether it's marriage or politics or you know saying things to the press, she always handled that with a very diplomatic and professional approach. And I think that whether you like her or not. That's very, very admirable, and something that not many people can do these days.
I've brought up some images here that I was completely unaware of this until researching for this episode. That the Queen Elizabeth, before she was queen, when she was merely a princess, she insisted on enlisting in the military to be a truck mechanic in the Auxiliary Territorial Service in 1945. So I think she was 19 or 18, and she really served her country in World War II. And I just love these pictures of her in her overalls, working on the truck with the other people there, who looked like they were just delighted to be standing next to the Queen fixing this truck. No, the princess, like I should say.
Yeah, I think this
Absolutely.
is something that we tend to forget as well, is that she did have a life. You know, before she was our queen, she was very much, like we've been saying, a person. And this is exactly why a lot of people do look up to her, because even before she was queen, she was already making herself into that role model that we saw throughout our lives. And I think in terms of, you know, people being in awe of working with her, I think she was just a lovely woman, by the accounts that we've seen and heard and these lovely images. We all are aware that she had a very wicked sense of humour, so a lot of these photos do have very large smiles in them, and I always like to think that she's said something to make everyone giggle or start laughing, which is quite a nice thing to think of her.
Yeah, if you want to hear her genuinely giggle, I was really charmed by a clip that I saw on YouTube. Actually, it was the Channel 4 released a 20-minute kind of summary of her entire life with photos and clips that I think was actually very tastefully done and really summed it up well. It gave her a lot of personality, or let her personality shine through. And that's just on the Channel 4 YouTube channel. Mm-hmm. And right at the end, it finishes with a few words that she said herself on a documentary that was made in 1992, and she finishes it with talking about how she says she's only, however much success she's had as a monarch, she only was able to do it because of how well she was trained. And it's not exactly the sentiment on its own that was charming, but she gives a little giggle, a little, just a genuine chuckle, like, you know, just spontaneously, not politely laughing at somebody's joke, but just, you know, making herself laugh. And to hear her be even that spontaneous and candid is really very rare, and to hear her unscripted like that, a very lovely clip to hear, and I'd encourage people to go and watch that Channel 4 summary. I didn't agree with all of it. They did insert a few notes that I don't agree with, but I don't want to linger on that sort of thing in this very special Women's Hour stream.
If I can just add very briefly, someone's commented, Delia Smith, that she wasn't born to be queen, and that's absolutely right. In this current photo, she originally she wasn't brought up to be queen, and suddenly, she had to change her way of life, which I think had a massive impact. But she took it in her stride. I think she did very well in not only jumping from not having to be raised to be a queen to suddenly being crowned at a very young age.
Yeah, for anyone who doesn't know the full history of that, it's kind of depicted in the King's Speech. If you want to see that film, see it on the screen film. With Colin Firth. But her uncle, who was supposed to be king, he abdicated the throne so that he could marry a divorcee. Because the English monarch is the head of the Church of England, and at that time being marrying a woman who'd been married previously was seen as kind of adulterous, because they didn't really acknowledge the legality of divorce, if it makes sense. So anyway, he was supposed to be king, and he abdicated the throne that made her, Elizabeth's father, king. And then when she turned 25, her father sadly passed away. And that Channel 4 clip that I was mentioning before describes how she was on safari at the time. And she was possibly one of the last people on Earth to know that the king had died and that she was now queen, because she was in this extremely remote location in a time before internet and well, I think it was really, she was literally in like a treehouse. Apparently, she climbed up this massive ladder to go into a treehouse as a princess, and then when she came down, she was the queen. I love these pictures. I love a good baby picture.
They're very natural, aren't they? They're just natural photos.
It's that wonderful hybrid of her sort of natural smile. She knows she's being photographed, and she's got this proper. She's conducting herself properly in the eyes of, the photographer, because she knows she's being captured. But she's also got this. Maybe I'm just projecting onto her, but she seems to have that genuine glow of a proud mother as she's holding her son.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah,
She does.
I think we'll see in some more photos in a moment that definitely comes through. She is certainly a proud mother. Obviously, with recent events, we won't bring those up, but I do still think she is a proud mother.
I think she's so beautiful. I know that's kind of that almost sounds like I'm reducing it by putting into words like that, but I love how she. Her face is so, it's kind of ordinary, if that makes sense. Like, she doesn't look like an actress or a supermodel. Like, she has like a normal English woman face, and yet she dresses so elegantly. Her hair is done, perfectly, and just that sort of genuine glow that comes from within makes her look really beautiful in all of these pictures, even into her old age.
Even when she isn't dressed unnecessarily elegantly, she still carries herself with such poise and a regal energy. It's just, like you said, it's so radiant.
Yeah.
So if I can just butt in very shortly, we do have a super chat from the English Loyalist.
I think we'll leave super chats to the end, unless it's really relevant.
It is very relevant.
Go on then.
So it's for $9.99. Thank you to the English Loyalist for saying this. He said, "A very historic time for you all in the UK. Remember this event. There is nothing like it in the world. Ignore the haters. They will never understand how great your culture is. God save the King."
Thank you very much, English Loyalist.
Very kind words there.
Yeah, I think ignoring the haters is the right tack to take in
Absolutely.
In this circumstance. There's always time for fighting later.
Yes. now is not that time, and especially with this lovely photo on the screen.
Yeah, I love this big grin she's got on her face, just like you said, Birdie, like someone's just done something hilarious.
Yes, they're all giggling, they're all laughing.
And she's the only one who's really knows that she's being photographed and knows to look into the lens.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like she has just done something to make them both giggle. But for those who aren't watching, who are only listening, it's a glorious photo of the Queen with her two children, at the time, two children.
Yeah, well, if you're only listening, you're really missing out on the stream because much of it is a visual experience. I love this one.
She's always been very elegant, hasn't she? I think even when she doesn't realise it, I think she was always. I know it was sort of her job to be very well presented, but she was just naturally. Well, it might just be me being.
No, you're right. It's just it's a beautiful standard for, I think, women to aspire to, and that's part of this. What I was saying earlier about her, that kind of that beauty that she has. That's not, it's not completely unattainable. Like, she looks kind of like I don't want to say ordinary, but she has a sort of a typical English beauty face. Not like a Instagram star with lip fillers and Botox and the nose job. She's just she looks real in a way that I think women can aspire to. She knows how to dress elegantly without being without sexualizing herself and being, it's just everything's just right. It's just right.
I think
Yeah.
one of her best traits as well is her approachability. And like you were saying, part of the sort of ordinariness, a lot of people, especially those who just happened to live close to her, saw her as a neighbor. And she was a part of her community, no matter where she was living. And I feel like that is, like you were saying before, for women, people in general, but especially women, for to have a figure like this to aspire to is extremely important. And I do hope that Camilla carries herself in a similar way.
Does anyone happen to know, is this image from her wedding day, or is it just a white dress?
I think that's just a white dress.
Yeah, I don't think that's her wedding.
That big grin on her face made me think maybe it was her wedding day. But she does look a bit older than I think she was when she married.
Yeah.
I was going to bring up, it's not really relevant to the picture, but I was also very charmed to listen to a broadcast she made on the BBC Children's Hour. I think she was 13 years old, and she gave a brief speech with her younger sister Margaret sitting next to her, just telling the children of England, of Britain, who had only recently been, many of them evacuated from the larger cities, just reassuring them that the war was, that everything was going to be all right and peace was coming, and that it was, a brave war that everyone was fighting. Just really simple words, nothing really spectacular, but I can just imagine how much it would mean to the children of England to hear the princess's voice through the radio, like talking to them directly, telling them that it's all going to be okay. It's really the definition of morale boosting, I think.
Absolutely.
I believe I know which one you're on about, Poe, and it is an absolutely lovely thing to listen to as well. She's very calming and soothing voice as well for those children who
she has the exact same cadence as she did right up until her passing. For her entire life, even at the age of 13, she had like completely nailed this this way of speaking to the nation. Really steady and enunciating every single sound, and just speaking properly in a way that was, like you say, soothing and easy to comprehend. But it's sort of just up an octave when she was a little girl. It's just a very nice thing to hear. And then right at the end, she says to her sister, who's been sitting silently next to her the whole time, she says, "Come on, Margaret, say goodbye to the children."
Oh.
And Margaret says, "Good night, children." Very sweet.
Very, very sweet. Very sweet.
Yeah. Oh yeah, his now we've gotten to more recent pictures of Elizabeth with
her beloved horses.
Yeah, I love that image of her. A little bit of lore behind this one. This one was taken after her husband had unfortunately passed away, and I believe that, if I'm not mistaken, this is this is one of the first public sightings of her afterwards, after that event happened and the funeral. And the color she's wearing is the same color as her husband's uniform.
And did you notice a cape?
Yes.
She's bringing it back. She's helping us.
Bring it back. I mean, the funny thing is, I do have a cape in a very similar colour, so
wonderful.
And it was not modelled after the Queen, I have to admit, but now I've seen this, it's very fitting, I think.
We're bringing it back. It's coming back. The Queen
Everyone needs the cape.
The Queen knew it was coming. Yeah, this is beautiful. And
again, I love this. I love this photo.
Yeah.
Very casual. I believe she was at one of the races. I think it was it the Windsor races? Oh, I forget now. But I just love that she's so casual. She knows she's out in public. She knows she's going to be photographed, but she's got her wellies on.
You got to.
She's going to enjoy
in that mud. You just have to.
Yeah.
I think it would be improper if she didn't, and instead like stumbled on the grass or the mud or the dirt in a pair of heels.
Yeah, Yeah, absolutely. I'd rather see women dress appropriately than trying to dress for somebody else's eye.
Definitely.
Yeah, I think we're. Oh yeah, this is the thumbnail. I just love this picture. The picture of her and her husband together. You know, you really do get the sense that they were in love in a in a way that wasn't just there for show. That they really enjoyed each other's company. And just the way they're smiling here, like they've just gone up a mountain for a walk, like any other
Yeah, yeah,
couple
absolutely.
spending a
It was
weekend together.
a common pastime for the royals to go up to the Highlands of Scotland and take a picnic with them, which was something I think that's very sweet. And it's they're not going out for anything fancy. They're just taking a picnic. I mean, their picnic was probably a lot more fancy than what I would make, but
Did you hear at the Jubilee? They said that the Queen's favourite sandwich is a jam penny, which is basically just
Oh.
a jam sandwich with butter cut out into a shape of a circle that she used to eat. They used to bring them to her in her nursery when she was a child, while she was playing, and she's loved them for her entire life. They said that was her favourite sandwich. So you can just imagine her with her jam pennies up a hill.
yeah, absolutely. That just reminds me of if anybody hasn't seen it, the clip of herself and Paddington Bear. Of course, she has a marmalade sandwich in her handbag.
It
ready
sounds silly, but she really does do. Like she really sells the concept of the CGI bear that she's talking to, and it sounds
Yeah,
cringe because so often it is. But really, the whole thing is it's just very charming and funny. It's not cringe at all. It's perfect, and it sort of comes across her sense of humor. Yeah, more
that's
horse
just pure
pictures
joy, isn't
Loved
it?
her
Pure joy,
horses.
I think it is.
and corgis,
And
The
of course,
corgis.
yes.
best known for. It seems like she does love animals. I mean, who doesn't love a lovely cuddly animal? But
She
in
does,
addition to
and
corgis,
that was a very large part of her life, the horses and the corgis. And apparently, her first corgi was gifted to her in 1944 as an 18th birthday present, and her name was Susan. And over nearly 80 years, she's owned all of Susan's descendants.
oh, do you think this was Susan?
I'm not sure. It
She
very
looks like
well
she could be 18. Anyway, I think we're getting close to our. Yeah, is this the start of your segment, cows?
Um, yes. This is a photo of her wedding dress. So, you were asking earlier. This is
Yeah.
the dress that she got married in. Um, and the country was still suffering from fabric shortages at the time, and families from all over Britain and even all over the world donated their white and light colored fabrics, whether that was cloths or pillowcases or any fabric that they had that could have been used for a wedding. Um, and they all sent it to the queen, and they felt that despite everything that was going on, she should have a dress that she deserves for a wedding that is royal. So I think that's very admirable.
Shall I enhance? Ooh, here she comes.
Yes.
And this one?
I believe that, if I'm not mistaken, this one is her coronation dress. It was commissioned in October of 1952, but wasn't completed up until right before the coronation, which was in June of the following year. And it took so long. They had a team of, I think, over 100 people that did research for the designs, the workmanship, the seamstresses, concept art, all that sort of thing. And I think it turned out fantastic. I think that's a very perfect dress for her.
I have to this again. I have to zoom out before it'll let me go to the next one. Here we go. Oh, beautiful!
And this is
I
another
love this.
one. I believe I'm not sure if this was taken in color or if it's color enhanced, but this is the color that it would have been, and all the other royal accessories, the scepter, which was made from diamonds with from South Africa, and of course, the imperial state crown. Um, the gem on the front of it is actually slightly misshapen, but they chose to keep it in its natural state when they were making this crown, and it's it
Sorry, I
was
thought you meant the scepter.
the scepter. I think that one's perfectly shaped. The picture of the crown, you can kind of see some little bumps on the. I don't know exactly which stone that is. But
The
if you
red
looked
one,
up
or
a
the top
picture of the
one.
crown, it's very easy to find.
Yeah.
It's the red one on the front.
But the jewels weren't made for her. These were inherited, presumably, from previous
yes.
monarchs.
The only difference was that they lowered the arches of the crown to give her a more feminine appearance. They thought that the tall arches were too masculine for her.
And once again, the cape.
Yeah,
you know,
the cape.
who else could wear a cape this well? I wouldn't even attempt it. So
no, I don't think I could pull this one off. No, this is one of the most famous photos of our queen. I mean, it was printed on postcards and just general cards in general, and sent all over the country. So it's very, very much an iconic photo. But I do think you're right, Cows. I do think it was taken in black and white originally, and it was color enhanced.
They did a good job enhancing it, though.
Yeah,
they did.
There's something you can just kind of tell, though. You know, when it just has that kind of look to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Here's a beautiful high res image of the scepter. See enhance. Oh, keep going. Beautiful. Can we go to the next one? There we go. Oh yeah, the crown.
Yep, and you can see the jewel on the front is a little bit wonky, but that was purposeful.
And this is the one with the lowered arches. They look a little bit lower in this one.
Yes. They were a lot taller when it was the king's crown.
So do we know if they're going to reverse that process, seeing as we now have a king, or it'll be interesting to see if they do.
I have no idea if they've even thought about that yet, but I wouldn't be surprised either way.
There's been speculation that King Charles is going to be... He's trying to make the monarchy, the royal family, a bit more minimal going forward. So I'd expect it to go in the opposite direction, if anything. He wants to sort of reduce the size of the...
yes.
The kind of the showmanship, the pomp and circumstance.
Titles for some of the royal family have already been released. And there are certain people, and I won't detain them on the show, it's quite easy to find out at the moment. There are certain people in the family who have not been included in that list. Also, as we know, the royal family does take in a certain wage, and I'm aware that not all of the members of the royal family, so the more extended members, will not be taking the wage as they are at the moment. So he is very much trying to minimalise, but I think it is for the better.
Yeah, I think that's maybe a debate for another time. But he's trying to make the family a bit more grounded, a bit more, a bit less above it all, a bit more sort of common. That makes sense. I'm trying to make it sound like as value free as possible. But this next image, Cows, can you run us through this one?
Yeah. So the image on the right, Elizabeth was actually seeing a premiere in I think it was 1962, 1963, at the cinema of Lawrence of Arabia. Wow. And this was the dress that Princess Beatrice asked the Queen if she could have for her wedding. And of course, with like you were saying, they want to reduce the sort of flashiness of being a royal. Even in eras like before, they were very conscious of their waist, especially fashion waist. You see a lot of public figures, politicians, they'll go out in an outfit once and not repeat it. They will never wear it again. And Elizabeth, especially, is commonly seen carrying the same bag, wearing the same jacket that she likes, wearing the same shoes. And I think that this, while it is obviously for familial reasons and sentimental ones, that this exhibits that quality of the family as well.
Yeah, imagine going to the back to the cinema in a full opera gloves and a tiara and diamonds around your neck. There, it's quite an outfit. It looks like Beatrice has added puffy sleeves and ditched the opera gloves and added a beautiful veil, of course.
Yeah, and the dress, I had a full image of it. I think it might be lost, but it's fine. But the bottom of it was kind of it went out and then inwards towards Elizabeth's feet, and I think that they whatever sort of silhouette piece that was shaping the skirt, they took that one out and had this version of the dress that Beatrice is wearing be a lot more flowy and like with a more modern flair.
Yeah, no,
It's
definitely.
quite nice to...
Go on.
Sorry, Claire, go ahead.
I was just agreeing. It looks modern compared to it looks more modern than it is.
No, I was only going to say it's quite nice to see a dress handed down, because it's quite often that we see pieces of jewellery that belong to the Queen being used. Kate, for instance, I've forgotten her title at the moment. It's changed again.
I think she's the Princess of Wales now.
She is. She's the Princess of Wales, and also Duke and Duchess of Cornwall as well. Now you've sparked a memory. Thank you, Kels. She was photographed quite a few times wearing either a borrowed tiara or necklace or brooches, and brooches are a key one. They've the Queen herself would wear her mother's brooches, which were then passed on to the Queen, which she then passed on to various members of the family, which is quite nice that they all sort of share that within each other.
Absolutely.
Yeah. If we ever do a wedding special, I'm holding out on doing a women's hour about weddings for hopefully when if we're still going when either Birdie or Amy get married, we'll have a wedding special. But if we do that stream, I'll tell the story of how I got my engagement ring from my grandmother as an heirloom.
Oh,
That's very sweet. Very sweet.
There is more to the story than just that, though.
Yeah,
it's not just an heirloom. Here we go.
Here we have Elizabeth on one of her horses. She, of course, was a huge fan of the countryside. She loved outdoorsy activities. And the only times that I was able to find in my research that she was seen wearing trousers in public rather than a skirt or a dress is when she was planning to ride a horse. And like we were saying before, she is still very elegant and she dresses for each occasion. Of course, she has the silk scarf and the sunglasses, and yeah.
Those beautiful autumn leaves on the ground.
One thing that stands out about this photo is that although she was the Queen, she is not riding side saddle. She's riding normally.
Is side saddle just something happens in films, or do people really ride like that?
No, people do really ride like that. I have seen it done, and it is.
She's been on a few parades side saddle, but when it was her, horseback riding for leisure purposes or just for enjoyment, then that's when she would wear her trousers.
More for official purposes, she'd ride side saddle. But yeah, absolutely. I think anyone would say it is definitely more comfortable just riding as everybody else would, should we say.
So this is a candid shot of her riding for pleasure rather than riding for a ceremony.
Yes. That's what it looked like from my research.
Yeah.
Of course, I'm probably going to be corrected if I'm wrong, but I think this was just her, possibly at her estate. But yeah, she's just enjoying herself.
Amy has just commented a very lovely comment about the Queen's wedding dress, and she said her wedding dress was inspired by the dress worn in Botticelli's Primavera.
Oh, I forgot to mention that. It was. It was very inspired by that. The designer, I believe, in my research, either got like special access to the painting or something like that, or there's something with the people that had it, like from the art curators, wherever it was held. I'm not an art person. I don't know about that stuff. But yeah, that was one of the biggest inspirations behind this dress.
I've just found it, so I can share it if you give me just 1 second. I have to stop sharing that first. Of course, I won't be able to find it now. Here we go. Is it that one? Is it this dress? Primavera?
Yeah, I think so.
There's a few on here, but that one was the one that was sort of most.
Yeah,
Anyway.
the floral details,
Yeah.
the general silhouette of it was all very inspired by this painting.
Okay, let's get back to our photos. I should put on our pending music again. Okay, let's go back to where we got to in the slide pack. We had our All I was going to say is that this is a beautiful black horse, and I found out recently, maybe it's white, but it's very rare to get. No, I don't know. I've lost confidence in my fact. I was going to say that it's very rare to get a true black horse that doesn't have any white patches on it. But now I think maybe I've got that wrong, and it's the opposite, where you very rarely get a true white horse. I'll have to check that next time.
I love this one. So this one is very interesting. I'm not sure what occasion this was, but this was a ruby jewelry set that Prince Albert actually commissioned and designed himself for Queen Victoria. It was the necklace, the earrings, and the brooch that she has. And they were passed down to each female royal family member up until Elizabeth. And I think that's just a nice little tidbit of history. I'm happy that they've survived in such good condition.
All her hair went white at once, which suggests to me that she must have been dyeing her hair for a little bit, and then at some point just decided she's going white with it.
Yeah.
She went through a stage of wearing quite a lot of hats. I think that was to subtly disguise the mismatched hair color, as most ladies will say. It doesn't tend to all go white at once. It will it will gradually go, but it was very well disguised, I think.
Yeah.
And this one, this is a very famous brooch. It's cut from the Cullinan diamond, and I believe Elizabeth received these from her grandmother, and they're nicknamed Granny's Chips, which is a pretty casual name for such a piece like this. Each piece of the jewelry is 94.4 carats and 63.6 carats. So those are big ones, and they're estimated to be worth over like 50 million pounds. So
after saying that she was an attainable standard of beauty that anyone can aspire to, I would say that you really can't wear a jewel this size unless you're the queen.
Unless you're the queen.
Well, that's
it's really quite huge.
But she handled it with such, like we were saying before, she's a dignified figure, and I feel like with her approachability, people are comfortable that she has objects like these, and of course it helps that it's not like these sort of new money celebrities that are buying them. And a lot of this stuff, albeit expensive, is inherited and kept polished and maintained by the royal family's team. So
yeah, absolutely. I think that's a key thing to remember as well, is that a lot of the jewels and possessions that the royal family have been handed down through generations after generations. They're not things that have just appeared or they've just bought last month. They are very, very old, and they're almost priceless because of that. But people still don't seem to accept it. But I mean, you could say that about anything. It's like your engagement ring, Poe, handed down through the family. Things like that we've cherished for years, and they have more sentimental value than monetary.
Yeah, I have a lot of heirlooms like that the actual dollar value worth of them means nothing when it's compared to the history and the people that they've been owned by. And I feel like the royals feel very similarly about their heirlooms.
In her own words, in that 1992 documentary that I mentioned before, she uses the words tradition and continuity as the values that she thinks she's trying to embody in her status and how she conducts herself, in the public eye. And that is symbolized by her, by everything, but also by these jewels that are literally owned by previous monarchs and worn by previous monarchs. Probably queens, not so much the king. Queens and princesses that came before her. The royal family, it is a family, which is the kind of remarkable thing about it, is that it stretches back. The people who used to be the monarchs of this country are her ancestors, and that's symbolized by these heirlooms.
Absolutely.
So I can't advance it now. At some point, she started wearing these like block colors, like where her hat would match her outfit perfectly. We're at the end now?
I believe so. A few of the files I think sent wrong, but that's okay.
Okay.
But one very important thing that she did was she started wearing very brightly colored things very young. It was you can't really tell because all the pictures are in black and white, but her and her sister Margaret would often wear like color coordinating styles or colors that would complement each other because they were young kids and they if they were out in public they wanted to be seen, not for pretentious reasons, but because it's exciting to see. And that's a tradition that she carried on into her adulthood. And up until the very end is that she would always wear pieces that complemented the world around her. I've very rarely seen her wear something, even very brightly flashy outfits that make her look out of place. And it very rarely is out of place because she's the queen.
I don't know if you ladies remember, but there was a very similar outfit to the one she has on in this photo, but it was yellow. And I always remember thinking to myself that she's probably one of the few women who can get away with wearing that and still look amazing.
Yes.
It suited her very well, and it didn't stand out. It was quite a soft pastel yellow, but it was very, very nice. And I know for a fact I could definitely not get away with wearing that colour, but she wore it very, very well.
She wore a pastel yellow getup that was very similar to this when she visited the Opera House in Sydney. And I believe right around then is when she really started trying to dress in a British style, but also with respect to each nation that she visited. And her stylists would take into account the architecture, the culture, the people, what the style was locally, and would give her an outfit that still looks like a queen's outfit, but very well fit each occasion.
Since you mentioned Sydney, I'll take that as an excuse to share one final image before we go, because our hour is almost up. This is the Queen Elizabeth as she appears in one of my favourite TV shows, Bluey.
I love Bluey.
It's an Australian cartoon where everyone is a dog, and rather than the Peppa Pig who's fallen into my bad graces, Bluey has not made the Queen into a human. They've just left her as a dog and drawn this lovely dog version of Queen Elizabeth with earrings and pearls on their $5 dues note.
I love how the little dog silhouette in the bottom right corner looks very much like the symbol at the bottom.
I didn't notice that. That's fine. Okay. Next week.
No comment on this.
Thanks very much for discussing the Queen with us. Next week we're going to go back to our regularly scheduled programming. Someone last week paid us to talk about Ethel and Ernest, which I watched this week and I loved a lot. I've taken a lot of screenshots from the film. I've got a lot to say about it. Just a very sweet English film, hand animated, and I really recommend that to anyone who wants to watch it in preparation for our discussion next week, where I'll be joined by the ladies, and we plenty of other interesting topics coming up. So please tune into Women's Hour in the future. Thanks very much to Birdie and Cows for joining me tonight. Thank you everyone for watching as always. Be well, and we'll see you again very soon.